God chose the foolish of the world to shame the wise, and God chose the weak of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly and despised of the world, those who count for nothing, to reduce to nothing those who are something. There's an old poem called Desiderata. It starts out, go placidly amid the noise and haste to remember what peace there may be in silence. And it goes on to say, remember the poor and lowly, the dull and the ignorant, for they too have their story. St. Vincent de Paul was born in France in the 1500s, became a priest, and was captured by Turkish slavers and sold into slavery. But he didn't stop there. His life could have gone on as a slave for the rest of his life until he died, but he witnessed to his master, and his master turned Christian and released him. He went on to serve as a parish priest and saw the plight of all of the poor people around him, and didn't just give them food and a little bit of money. He gave them dignity. It taught them how to love the Lord the way he loves each and every one of us. He went on to found the Society of St. Vincent de Paul and worked with St. Louise de Marillac to form the Ladies of Charity. And together they witnessed to and ministered to thousands of people who were down and out, people that other people who are maybe well off or at least comfortable might look past them and turn their face or even cross the street to get away from them, not recognizing the dignity in each and every one of them, and that there by the grace of God could go any one of us. Pope Francis said once that it wasn't good enough for us to give a little bit of money to a person who is homeless. It's to look them in the eye and let them know they are human. As I said, any one of us could suffer the same fate if it weren't for the grace of God. And sometimes it's so easy to look at people and not know their full story and think ill of them. But some of the people who are homeless have the most amazing stories and the most amazing hearts. Father Joe Freedy was working down at the Red Door, and apparently one morning he must have had one of his old t-shirts on that was a little bit ratty, and one of the homeless people approached him and said, "Do you need another shirt?" He will never live that down. But we often do overlook the hearts of the people that maybe have fallen on bad times. There was a man who used to wander through Oakland. He was about this tall, and he had long, wavy, grayish blonde hair. He wore a beret, and he had kind of gnarly teeth and an old wool jacket that was probably older than me. And he would come into the copy shop where I worked at Kinko's and make $2 or $3 worth of copies every couple of days. And he wandered around through Oakland into the banks and out again. And I think people thought he was just a crazy old man. And I stopped and asked him one time, what are you making copies of? And he said, I'm an engineer, and someone stole one of my patents, and I'm writing to whoever will listen to ask them to act on it because I don't have the lawyers that this big company did. I got to know him a little bit and helped him write one of his letters to the governor. And it didn't do any good, but as we talked, I learned a little bit more about him. He used to work at the U.S. Bureau of Mines as a mining engineer. And every once in a while, he'd get a call from one of his friends and say, I need to meet you for dinner. I need to pick your brain. I'm having some problems. And a limousine would pull up outside of his office, and he'd get in and sit down and give advice to Andrew Carnegie. You never know who you're talking to. You never know what lives they've lived, what pain they've suffered, or what love they have in their hearts. And so with each act of charity we give, our hearts have to be in it. It's not just enough to give. It's important, like St. Vincent de Paul, to always give with love.